and that we have this battle for the kingdom between King Xavier Woods and Roman Reigns. And the match itself was very good. We knew for a fact that Roman wasn't going to lose because he never loses. He has not lost a match in well over a year via pinfall or submission, unless you count referees being knocked out and they can't see the actual tap out or pin attempt. But we had a battle, and it was good. And it ended via disqualification, thanks to the Usos, who pulled Xavier Woods away from Roman Reigns, who hit the elbow drop for the win. And they attacked him with the steel steps, sent him flying over the announce table. And then to wrap up the show, they present the crown that belongs to Xavier Woods to Roman Reigns. He bends the knee all right to take the crown of Xavier Woods to declare himself king of WWE. I hated the DQ finish. I understood why it happened. And a part of me wished that Survivor Series was centered on the Bloodline versus the New Day. That would have actually been a hook to say, damn, this is exciting. This is different. We got three guys jockeying for the same position. Xavier Woods wants to be on equal footing as Roman Reigns. Big E wants to beat the Universal Champion. There's a lot of things in the fire regarding a Bloodline versus New Day feud. I think Kofi's wife is due to have another baby very soon, and he might be on daddy leave right now, which is completely understandable for him to go on break. And that might be a reason why this feud has been a bit restrained in terms of what they can do fully. But the larger question is, we look at the SmackDown main event scene. We know that the main money draw is Brock Lesnar versus Roman Reigns, presumably at WrestleMania in Dallas, Texas. But in the meantime, in between time, you got to make people for Roman Reigns, unfortunately, to beat on this show. But you do want to get people ready, hopefully for a future beyond Brock Lesnar. Because as we mentioned at the top of the show, you can't wait for a legend to show up to bail you out, to give you the dream match, because you don't know when that's going to happen. So I like the fact that for almost a year, Xavier Woods has been protected by WWE. He had a nice run on Monday Night Raw. I remember a gauntlet match when he was with Kofi Kingston. He didn't get pinned at all during the gauntlet match, which really told me something as well regarding how they feel about him, besides not paying him on up, down, down. But from a booking standpoint, they're protecting him as a character. And he's not afraid to step up to Roman and say, I run this kingdom too, not you. And if you're trying to build someone, anybody up, could it be Xavier Woods to be a player besides a Drew McIntyre, who's been there, done that as WWE champion and faced Roman Reigns at last year's Survivor Series? So, Paul, do you see Xavier Woods as someone that has any chance of being a top-tier main eventer on the same level, even sniffing that level of Roman Reigns?
I will say that I think that Xavier Woods is the perfect guy to be put in the position that he's going to be in for the next 5 months, which is he's probably going to be in that main event scene. He's going to be challenging Roman Reigns, maybe even getting a world title match at either, or maybe even both, of night one and the Royal Rumble. Because it's a guy that, he's not going to win. Everybody knows he's not going to win, but he's a very, very good worker, very underrated worker, and a guy that will be elevated by just being in the ring with Roman Reigns. He's going to get better. He's going to be taken more credibly by the audience. And then he's a guy that you can go back to in the future. And then maybe even at some point, like after this reign of terror is done, and I don't mean that in a bad way, but the reign of terror by Roman Reigns is done, you can go to him and as a former challenger and give him a world title at some point, because he's had that credibility in the eyes of the audience. And then, he can take that through WrestleMania, and then, at that point, maybe settle down a bit. And I think in the meantime, you protect guys like Drew McIntyre or maybe somebody else that you're bringing up to protect, and then they can be the guys that are going to challenge after WrestleMania. And in the meantime, you just find something else for guys like Drew and, whoever else you want to protect, maybe a Ridge Holland. But yeah, so to long answer to your question, I really, really like this positioning of Xavier Woods. It's something that they do all the time in this season. They've you famously remember guys like Bob Holly and Dolph Ziggler and guys like that getting a push, above where they normally are at this time of year. Because you got so many guys, in the Royal Rumble and in the lead up to WrestleMania that you need a guy like a Xavier Woods to be in that main event world title scene as somebody that the fan, will have good matches that the fans know aren't going to win, but that you can possibly elevate to a new level.
What's your take, Jeremy? Does King Xavier Woods have a chance to be a true main event player on SmackDown?
He does, but I consider it to be personally a long shot that it happens. With Drew there, I think he is going to be on a second pecking order. In addition to that, I have to remember that the crown has had 3 different people on its head in addition to Roman Reigns, who's not even a king. You had Baron, you had Shinsuke, and you had Xavier all this year. So what that says to me is that if we want to legitimize what being a king of the ring is, Xavier needs to be built up as a strong contender. He needs to have strong matches and definitive wins with Kofi at his side or whatnot until either the gimmick runs its course or he decides that decided that they go heel instead. One of the things that I was thinking about in terms of where this feud could go is that I was actually thinking on January 1st as a tide over, you could do a New Day versus the Roman's group, the Bloodline, at that January 1st show, and that would be a heck of a main event prior to getting ready for the Royal Rumble. I don't know if they'll plan on doing that, but I think this feud still has legs. I think this feud is one of the strongest things going, and I think that the New Day is actually a very strong challenger, and it, as opposed to the single challengers that you have coming up that are just simply overpowered by the strength in numbers. So having New Day, having that strength in numbers factor, eventually countered once you get the opportunity to have Kofi and Xavier and Big E all facing off, you could have Big E beat Roman this next weekend and then turn around and have the Bloodline beat the New Day in a 3-on-3 to kind of win back the heat.
That would be a great idea. And there are so many layers to the Bloodline in the New Day, in that you have the Usos, who have been gaslit by Roman Reigns for well over a year now. And Jimmy came back and says, I'm nobody's bitch. And then you end up being Roman's bitch because he gaslit you. It's like he still falls in line, but as you really buy into what Roman Reigns is selling, and you have the New Day, who have a deep history with the Usos, maybe at some point they say, Jimmy, Roman don't love you like that. Maybe you need to step aside and just say, maybe this isn't for you, your original thought before Roman brainwashed you. There's so many stories here, so many layers, that if they tap into it, it could be a nice story to tell at day one, heading into WrestleMania and beyond. And since they're the ones, why not do it at day one?